This video is a meme. It's not gonna happen. We're just making this for entertainment purposes only. So anybody calling me out for how ridiculous this video topic is, I know it's ridiculous, but hey, there are articles going about this topic, and it's been trending on social media. It's on Twitter. I see some Instagram comments going out there and saying it because there is a very legitimate conversation to be having about this kind of topic. We're making a video about it here. So, let's talk about the Calgary Flames, and let's talk about the Boston Bruins, because these two teams have been pulling heaven and earth to do the things that they had needed to do for this NHL offseason. On one hand, the red team, the Flames team, you have yourselves the Johnny Gaudreau departure, the inevitable Matthew Tkachuk departure too. You traded away Tkachuk to get Mackenzie Weegar, you got Jonathan Huberdeau, you signed Huberdeau to the contract that you probably would have felt comfortable giving Gaudreau, and now you have yourselves a team that I would say is, on paper, a little bit better than they had been before. Meanwhile, for the Bees, B-Town, Boston, you have yourselves Patrice Bergeron, who came back on a very team-friendly deal, Pavel Zacha, whom you re-signed. Okay, that's not really that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, but at the same time, hey, he's there. And you had David Krejci, who came back too. We had talked about all this stuff in different videos throughout the past few weeks, so go ahead and check out all the coverage that we have on these topics. But when it comes to what's next between these two teams, there's been one specific trade idea that has floated around connecting both the Bruins and the Flames. And it's one trade idea that I think a lot of people are going to look at and say, okay, that's just kind of fan service now, isn't it? Let's talk today about Milan Lucic, Calgary Flames forward, and the big Luch himself. He's the guy that every time he touches the puck in the Saddle Dome, the fans go out there and they say Lou, like they did with Luongo in Vancouver, but it's a little bit different because, you know, Lucic. Lucic is a pretty old guy. 34 years old, 6'3", 231, and left-handed forward, making $5.25 million a season for one more year until the end of 2023. In this final season of his contract, he's got a modified no-trade clause and a no-move clause. He's got a list of teams that he's allowed to be traded to, and there's a lot of speculation and rumor farming going out there talking about the idea of him getting traded over to one Boston Bruins club. Why? Well, because Milan Lucic was a former Boston Bruin and one of the fan favorites of that team, if I go out there and say so myself. Take a look at the profile here. Lucic was drafted in the second round of the 2006 NHL Draft by the Bruins. He was taken out of the Vancouver Giants system where he was an absolute monster. He fought, he had a lot of penalty minutes, and he scored a heck of a lot of points. He made the NHL 2 seasons after, eventually becoming a 40, 60-ish point guy with the Bruins. He won a Stanley Cup with the team in 2010-2011, while also getting a lot of hits and a lot of fights under his belt. He had spent, 8 years in the Boston Bruins organization, had 62 points as a career high as a member of that team, and he was seen by a lot of people as this physical, goal-scoring, playmaking guy that could just pretty much do it all. He's a pretty all-round versatile forward. Eventually, Lucic made his way over to the LA Kings, wherein the Bruins got themselves a top draft pick in the 2015 draft. They also traded Dougie Hamilton away in the same span of time, getting yet another pick, which is why they had 3 first-round picks in that draft in the first place. They only really took DeBrusk that was of significant value there. They passed up on Conor, Chabot, Besser, Barzal, a whole bunch of other great players. But eventually, Milan Lucic made his way over to Edmonton, where he had a 50-point season in 2016-17. He stopped producing shortly after that, and now as a member of the Calgary Flames, he put up 21 points in 82 games this recent year. A lot of people would throw Milan Lucic's name into the conversation as to who has some of the worst contracts in the NHL. He's a guy that was seen in the same light as the Kyle Okpozos and the Louis Ericssons because he didn't really produce all too much in comparison to the 5.25 AAV that he was getting. But at the same time, there still was that historical factor, hey, this guy won a Stanley Cup, hey, this guy can fight, hey, this guy actually does put a lot of penalty minutes up there on the board, so he does have some value at the NHL level. This is why you have yourselves articles like this one. Let's go over on Spectres Hockey on August 14th, 2022, so yesterday, and talk about 2 separate pieces published on Calgary Hockey Now, as well as Boston Hockey Now. This is what Calgary Hockey Now went out there and said. Steve McFarland recently observed Flames winger Milan Lucic and the fact that he was trending on social media last week after the Boston Bruins re-signed Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci. McFarland believes the Flames have no urgent need to move the 34-year-old power forward unless they're planning on making another big trade. So, big trade, eh? Okay, I mean, he's a big dude. He's got a big contract. Milan Lucic certainly isn't a small asset. But when it comes to a big trade, I mean, getting him back over into Boston would be a pretty big one in my opinion. Let's go over onto the summary of the Boston Hockey Now article. Jimmy Murphy half-jokingly made the suggestion that Bruins GM Don Sweeney should attempt to bring back Lucic after signing Bergeron and Krejci. He pointed to Lucic's close friendship with those two, as well as Bruin wingers Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak. Murphy wondered if Sweeney would be interested in acquiring Lucic if the Flames agreed to retain part of his $6 million cap hit. He is slated to becoming a UFA next summer. Here's the note from Spectres. If the Bruins want a reunion with Lucic, and there's no indication Sweeney is considering that, they'll have to wait for next summer. McFarland pointed out he remains a key part of the Flames leadership core for the upcoming season, as they hope to contend for the Stanley Cup. Flames GM Brad Treliving could surprise us with another big offseason move. However, I think he's already made his big splash for the summer. Could you imagine the idea of Milan Lucic getting sent back over to the Boston Bruins, reuniting that top six with Bergeron, Krejci, Pastrnak, Marchand? All you need is, what, like Mark Recchi or something? Like, oh man, I don't like the sound of that at all. As a Vancouver Canucks fan that watched my fan base turn this city inside out, burning it to the ground after Game 7 of a 2011 Cup final that I felt like the Vancouver Canucks should have been able to win had they not been injured. That's just nightmare fuel, isn't it? And a lot of Canucks fans, I think, are tuning into this video saying, no, Lego, no, I'm closing this video, I'm disliking the video, I'm not going to watch anything else that you make because I don't like this idea. And hey man, it's not me, it's the Twitters, it's the Instagrams, it's the users going out there talking about this guy. His name was trending after Bergeron and Krejci re-signed because a lot of fans were like, hey, all we gotta do is bring Lucic back, get the band back together, hey, am I right? And so, it is a funny idea. However, as the Spectres note went out there and said, it doesn't really look like this is actually going to happen. It's just fan service going out there and doing what fan service does. And writers on the Hockey Now series of websites that are going out there and entertaining these discussions by writing articles about what the people are talking about, which in and of itself is kind of what editorialized journalism is nowadays, because hey, if people are talking about it, you go out there and you write articles about it, you make YouTube videos about it like the way I'm doing right here. I don't want this to happen. I really don't. As a Vancouver Canucks fan, I kind of embraced the idea of Lucic being a Calgary Flames somewhat folk figure, I guess you could say, but sending him back over to Boston is just pure nightmare fuel. I don't want to see a Bruins reunion. All they got to do is get Timmy Thomas back in the crease there, baby. Yeah, maybe then they can win the Stanley Cup, because Tim Thomas... Yeah, to be honest, I'm still not over the fact that Tim Thomas had the best Stanley Cup Finals performance from a goaltender ever against Vancouver. Like, the best individual season in terms of shots faced and saves made. Like, dude, ay. Vancouver got smoked so bad. They were one game away. Talk to me in the comments, let your thoughts. I'm getting off track here. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj Trolls 99. Flames fans, Bruins fans, what are your thoughts on Lucic back to Boston? And bye.